Hello and welcome back to everyone that's tuned in to the American Ultra Stock channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today we're making a video straight to the point. As you see on the screen, it's the big topic of the moment, the FIFA Club World Cup, new format, a new cash grab way to get more money, really. It's all hosted in the US right now. So straight away, I would like to ask you guys, if any of you are in the region, you're going to watch any of the games, let us know. We'll be sort of covering this. Let us know if you want any more coverage on this topic. Obviously, the focus is going to be on can any CONCACAF team make it past the group stage. It's not looking too promising, but we're going to debunk some of these groups right here and casually analyze who we think, our predictions on who is going to make it through. Starting with Group A, Palmeiras, Porto, and Inter Miami gets snuck into that group right there. Some people think it's very convenient that they got this group. I think it's a fairly competitive one. And Al Ahly obviously closing out the group since they were in the last spot, the last one to be drawn right there. But that's the order we have right here. Thoughts on these teams? Do you think that Messi and co can somehow sneak their way into the next round, Ray?
Well, I have to say, I think they may have gotten the easiest draw imaginable. If they do want to get through. I mean, if you look at the rest of the teams that they could have got from the main pots, I mean, yeah, Palmeiras are good, but Porto, I think, relatively to the other teams, are pretty weak. And then Al Ahly, they do have a pretty good record against CONCACAF or MLS. They beat the only ever CONCACAF team or MLS team to make the Club World Cup before this one, the Sounders, who you see in Group B. They beat them 1-0 in the last edition of it. So they have a better record against them, but obviously Inter Miami are probably a better team. They're going to have a lot of motivation in this tournament. Messi's definitely going to bring his A game. Suarez has been in pretty good form this season. They have clearly a pretty solid team. I don't think they're going to get through. I think Palmeiras are going to top the group, unfortunately. TAC will definitely be happy about that. And then Porto, I think, will finish second. Al Ahly could potentially push them. I actually think Inter Miami might finish last in the group, which is probably a shock to some, but maybe if it was Messi 5 years ago, they'd advance, but I just don't think so. Their defense is too weak in particular.
Yeah, I will say, normally I'll put Porto and Palmeiras ahead, just not because of the size of the club, but also the form and the quality of players they have. But Palmeiras is going through somewhat of a turbulent time. My dad's a big Palmeiras fan, and I think I agree with the vast majority of even Mancha Verde, the organized, the crew, the ultras there for Palmeiras. They really are demanding new signings because it's somewhat of an aging squad. They're too reliant on Vega and Esteban, who is a really young guy. You can have a day off, and Vega really these days just does things from penalty spot. That's about it. I think they are in drastic need of new signings. I think it's kind of up for grabs. I think that Porto will go through and Palmeiras as well, but I think it might be a little bit closer. And I would just say, I know that I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but for what they could have gotten, Inter Miami got it really easy with this group right here. Moving on to from what is the easiest group to what I think is the hardest one. This is insane. Poor Sounders, man. They get drawn in with PSG, Atletico Madrid, and Botafogo, who are flying high, their best moment in their history. And the Sounders find themselves in Group B. And this is a very tough group. I'm curious, do you think that any team that's not European can somehow make it through after this one? Because it's a very challenging one. I think it's the highest level, fair to say.
Yeah, I don't think there's any debate. This is definitely the group of death for me. It is unfortunate for the Sounders because, I mean, you see how easy of a draw Inter Miami got. Not that they're probably going to make it out anyway, but comparing that to this, I mean, it's crazy. The Sounders, they did just make it to the Western Conference Final in the MLS, so they're on decent form, but I mean, we saw how poor they were the last time they made this competition. Of course, losing to Al Ahly, and I think all three of the teams in this group are better. PSG aren't the PSG of old. I mean, they're even struggling in the Champions League right now, but still doing great in Liga. Atletico are having a decent season, I'd say, as well. Third in La Liga, doing okay in the Champions League as well, in 15th. And of course, Botafogo just wrapped up their first Libertadores, if I'm not mistaken, and also are probably going to win Brasileirão. So they're in great form. I think they definitely have a chance to advance out of this group. I think this is a tough one. I mean, at the end of the day, all these groups come down to who actually takes the competition seriously. I think there will be one or two European teams that probably don't, just use it as a preseason. So I do actually think Botafogo will make it out of the group. I think I'm going to say Atletico make it and Botafogo make it. I'm going to say PSG in a shocker, don't make it out. I just don't think they're going to take it seriously. I don't know why, but I think there's going to be some upsets that happen here. Unfortunately, it won't be the Sounders, but I mean, this is a good opportunity for them. If they can perform well against any of these three very good teams, maybe it could make MLS a little bit more appealing of a destination for top signings.
Yeah, I was really distraught when I saw this because if they had gotten drawn in Group F, I think they may have gotten a shout, really. But this is such a tough group. And I'll disagree right here. I think that PSG and Botafogo make it through. For whatever reason, even though it's not ingrained in Atletico's mentality to not take things serious, I just have a feeling that Botafogo and PSG can make it through. And the real upside for Botafogo, not many youngsters besides Luis Enrique who are likely to leave the club. So they could keep the same bases that got them these titles recently. And for Group C right now, we have another stacked group in terms of names, huge clubs in history: Bayern, Benfica, Boca Juniors, and Auckland City. Poor Auckland City gets drawn in right here. I'll be fairly honest, I've never watched them play ever in my life. Thoughts, Braden? Do you think there's an upset? I think the second spot perhaps is for grabs. Do you think the South Americans can beat Benfica?
Well, I mean, if you're going to go based on who's in this competition the most, Auckland City would top their group because they're always here as the representative of OFC. But again, unfortunately, I don't think they have any chance against either of these teams. I think this is also a pretty interesting group. I don't think it's necessarily as good in terms of quality as Group B, but I mean, very, very strong teams. Of course, Bayern Munich are solid. Of course, top of the Bundesliga, doing decent in the Champions League. You have Boca Juniors, who are always a giant powerhouse in Argentina. And of course, Benfica, pretty inevitable. I think I'm going to go chalk here. I think it's going to be Bayern and Benfica to make it out. I think that Boca won't make it easy, and I do think they'll have a large majority of the support at all the games that they are playing in the group. They'll probably beat up on Auckland City, although I think everybody will. But Benfica are just too good of a team, honestly. I really like the way they're run, and Bayern, of course, we know how good they are as well. So unfortunately for Boca Juniors, maybe in a different group they get out, but I think in this one they won't.
Yeah, I don't think that Boca are going to. Really, I don't think that they've been too good recently to match up to Benfica and Bayern. I'll just say Bayern and Benfica. Kind of boring right here, but sadly, it's not the Boca of old. But they are promising signings, huge signings. They are always promising somehow get to land these names like Cavani, and who knows? Maybe they get some quality players. There were some talks about Dybala. Don't think that one will happen. But if they get some big names, maybe they can sneak their way in. We're going to go right here to Group D. I'm very curious to see how this group unfolds. I'll definitely tune into every single match. We have Flamengo, who are on the upwards trajectory with Felipe Luis. You guys may know, the left back that played for Atletico Madrid. Very, very promising. I think, dare I say, the most promising Brazilian coach in the past decades, really, the century. So we have him leading Flamengo on their way against Chelsea, Club Leon, and Tunis. Who do you think makes through in this one? I think it was a very favorable draw for Flamengo. I know that you're a Flamengo fan. I think it was for what they could have gotten. They should be happy about this one.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree. And I've been a huge fan of Felipe Luis as a manager. He did really well with Flamengo U20s, got promoted when Chichi was sacked. Of course, you guys might remember the former Brazil manager. And he's been really good. Only one loss in charge. Unfortunately, it was to rivals Fluminense, but every other game has been a win or a draw, mostly wins, and I do think this is a pretty easy group, honestly. I mean, credit to Esperance Tunis for making it. It'll be fun to see them. Definitely a team that I don't think anyone will have watched before, so it'll be interesting to see how they compare, but I don't think they have much of a chance. Chelsea are an interesting one. If this was Chelsea of 2 years ago, I think Flamengo topped the group comfortably, but unfortunately, Chelsea are back in form. It's second in the Premier League. Their squad is firing, and I think they actually suit this competition really well because they basically have two full 11s that they play. They have one for the Prem, one for the Conference League, which means they can rotate so easily and not have much of a drop in quality. I mean, they have players like Christopher Nkunku in their second team. That's outrageous how good he is. So I think they're actually very well suited. I do think I'm going to be a little biased and put them second behind Flamengo. I do think Flamengo will have a lot of support here as well. They're one of the biggest fan bases worldwide, I think it's fair to say, and especially if they play some of their games in Florida or that kind of region, I think it's going to be a domination. in terms of the fan base. Club Leon are the other team. I just want to say I don't think this is set in stone just yet, because Club Leon and Pachuca, who you'll see in Group H, are actually owned by the same ownership. So there is a little bit of a dispute. Club Leon, one of them could still be kicked out. I would imagine it would be Club Leon, since it is the Pachuca Sports Group that owns them. So I don't think they'd kick out their own team. Club Leon would get kicked out, and then it'd either be, of course, my team, the Philadelphia Union, to replace them, or Alajuelense from Costa Rica. Both of them have arguments. We're going to have to see what happens. I think everyone knows what I'm hoping for, but regardless, I think whatever team ends up in that spot will finish third. And then, unfortunately for Tunis, they'll just be happy to be here in fourth.
Yeah, I think that Tunis would get destroyed. Don't want to be mean to them, but it's a fairly strong group. And I saw some Flamengo fans remembering what was, I think, the biggest disaster that happened in their history was when they got knocked out to America in the Libertadores, when they had a really strong squad. So some of them were thinking, oh, Mexican teams are always competitive, because they were. When they played Libertadores, they were very strong. But I don't think it'll be the case this time around. I think that Chelsea comfortably tops the group. I'm sorry, but I just think they have too much quality. It's just too much there. Flamengo is going to go through. I think they have, out of the Brazilian clubs, the biggest chance, not only because of the way the group's set up, but the way that they're doing right now. It's a high for the club, and they have a lot of funds from winning the cup recently, so they just got a title. They will make big signings. They always do. So I think that Flamengo has a good shout. And now we go to Group F, going from, I think, one of the best Brazilian clubs to, my apologies, Group E right here. A bit of a problem. We'll go to Group E, where River Plate is going to be playing against Urawa Red Diamonds. Funnily enough, that's my grandpa's favorite team, so I'll be cheering for them. Monterrey and Inter Milan. Very diverse club. I think all very strong. Maybe not the strongest, but perhaps where the gap is not as big. Which ones do you think will make it through to the next round?
Yeah, I think this might be the most interesting group, honestly, because Inter Milan are obviously going to be seen as the favorites, as the European club who've been very, very good recently. But I think there's definitely stronger European clubs that could have been drawn here. Monterrey, of course, giants in Mexico. Of course, Brandon Vasquez, USMNT player, plays for them. We'll put that in quotes because he doesn't really get minutes anymore, because according to some of their fans, he's one of the worst signings they've ever made. But they're doing okay, 5th in Liga MX right now. We know they always show up for the big occasions. They're also going to have a huge fan base here as well, so they'll probably be the majority in terms of the crowd in all their games. River Plate are a very intriguing team, of course, one of the historical giants of Argentina. Not necessarily in great form this season. Lots of draws, not enough 3 points on the table for most of their games, but they're still, of course, a massive club, and they're going to want to do well in this tournament. And Urawa Red Diamonds, another huge giant from Japan, but honestly, again, they're having a really bad season. They're, I think, bottom half right now, or this season. I think it just ended, actually, in Japan in the J League. So they're coming in really bad form, which is why, unfortunately, I do think I see them in last place. If this was them in their prime, maybe of a decade ago or something, I think they actually have a decent chance at getting out. But I think it is going to be Inter Milan, and I'm actually going to go with Monterrey, because I think the crowd is going to be a big factor. I wouldn't be surprised if River Plate also have a lot of fans at their games. It just kind of depends on where they're played. Hopefully the full schedule comes out soon. We get to see who plays where, but I think that's going to be a huge factor. If some of the games are in Texas, I think Monterrey go through. If they're in Florida or that kind of East Coast Atlantic region, probably River Plate, but I'm going to go with Monterrey. A little bit of CONCACAF bias maybe, but honestly, I think anything could happen in this group.
Yeah, for this one, I think the top kind of picked itself. It's going to be Inter. Again, too much quality. I see that they're going to try to reward a lot of monetary gains. If you go to the next round, that's kind of an incentive for Europeans to take this serious. And we know Italian clubs aren't the wealthiest, so I think it's a good chance for them to make a quick crash gap right there. For a second spot, I think it will be River. I just think that they are always good for international tournaments. Again, the fans, they will show up. And for whatever reason, I think that Monterrey will be last. I really think that they have underwhelmed with what they have. They should have achieved a lot more this season recently. I don't think that Vasquez really plays for them anymore. I know that we can categorize factually he does, but I think he might be on the way out. They're looking to make signings as well. Again, Mexican teams have a lot of power financially, so I think they will lure in some good players. And for Urawa, I think if it was 3 years ago, I would definitely pick them to go through. But these days, the only really good player they have is Watanabe, who's a player that if any MLS club is looking to sign a good defensive midfielder, Watanabe should have gone to Europe a while back. But I think that they will finish about third or fourth. I just think that Monterrey is a bit of a mess, really, with what they could have. They have really been underwhelming. I don't tip them to have a run for it, but hopefully they represent CONCACAF. I say hopefully, but I'm not really hoping for it. But moving on right here to Group F, now Group F, where we have Fluminense. We talked about Palmeiras, Botafogo, Flamengo, good, well-established clubs. Fluminense could yet. It's not likely to happen, but they could be playing in the second division next year, going to Mirassol, to a nobody city, and then going to the Club World Cup. But they're going to be joined by Borussia Dortmund, Ulsan, and Mamelodi Sundowns. By far, hands down, the weirdest name right here. The Sundowns make it to the Club World Cup. Do you think they're going to try to surprise? Which ones do you see going through? I think it's really up for grabs for that second spot here.
Well, hopefully Fluminense's sun is down, or their club goes down. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens on the final day in Brasileirão. But I think this is going to be probably maybe the main group to watch for the USMNT fans, because, of course, we have Gio Reyna and Cole Campbell at Dortmund, and I think this is probably the weakest group. Very easy for Dortmund to go through. I think they'll top it with ease. Like you said, Fluminense, I mean, if this was their Libertadores winning side, maybe they would advance. I think they still have a decent chance because Ulsan Hyundai have been playing very, very poor, honestly, in Korea. They won the K-League, but outside of that, in the AFC Champions League, they're doing very, very poorly. Not a good showing from them. And then Mamelodi Sundowns, the only really relevant thing for them is that their keeper, Ronwen Williams, who was actually nominated for the Yashin Trophy this year. He finished 9th. I think it was a surprise to everyone, including me. I have to admit, I had not heard of him before that, but he was crucial to South Africa in, I think, their semifinals run in the last AFCON. And, I mean, he's been playing very well for Mamelodi Sundowns as well. I'm actually going to put them in second, probably because I hate Fluminense, and probably because I think it'd be a fun story for an African team to go through, especially with this keeper who's basically carrying them through. I don't think it's likely to happen, but I'm going to have some fun with the predictions, have them to go through. Hopefully Fluminense, the Serie B club, fingers crossed, will be going down and not making it through the group, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I don't think that Fluminense will pagar a Serie B. It's a known meme in Brazil that they never paid Serie B, the second division. They got promoted from the third division to the first one. The only club to ever do that. The CBF found a way to put them there when they got relegated, and ever since they have this ghost around. I don't think they have enough quality to go through. And I'm saying this, I'm not even biased against them. I have nothing against Flu. It's just that I think it's a squad of zombies. Felipe Melo, Nino, Ganso, everyone's a zombie there. If they put them all together, they might reach 20 miles per hour on a sprint. I think it's really, really, really bad the way that the club is going right now. I don't think they'll go down, but I don't think they'll make any signings. They don't have any money to make any signings. And their big star from back at John Kennedy, when they won the Libertadores, he likes to party these days. So I don't think that Flu has any chance of making it through, even though the other teams are not as good. But I'll pick Hyundai right here. The motorsport brand as well. They're owned by the Hyundai Group. I'll pick Ulsan to make it through alongside Dortmund. And hopefully Cole Campbell gets some good minutes right here. It should be a good sample for him to test the waters. And now we move on to the next group right here. Group G, Man City, Juventus, Wydad, and Al Ain. I'll be honest, I have no experience about Al Ain, but who do you think? Do you think that the Europeans will do their supremacy right here and get it through? I think it should be fairly easy for them.
Yeah, another group for USMNT fans to watch out for, of course, Weah and McKennie at Juventus. But yeah, I think this will be pretty straightforward for Man City and Juventus. Despite the struggles that City have been having recently, I don't think it'll be too much of a problem. I will say Wydad Casablanca have one of the best fan bases in the world, incredible support at all of their games, but they're only 4th in Morocco right now. They didn't actually make it out of their group in the last CAF Champions League, which was very shocking. They're just not playing too well as of late. So, I mean, I don't think they're going to have much to shock the European nations. And Al Ain, fair play to them. I mean, they've been doing pretty well. I think they won something recently, but I mean, they play in the UAE. I don't think there's really much more to say. Maybe if it was a Saudi team in this group, they'd have a chance, but I just don't think they have, unfortunately, the quality. So I think this is probably the easiest group to pick.
Yeah, I think so. Very easy. No surprises here. And yeah, props to Wydad, them and Raja Casablanca. They always make really, really nice tifos and all the atmosphere. But sadly, they won't even have that on their side here. So I think this picks itself. And that brings us to the last group. Some may say is the terrorism group, the most hated clubs. I don't get why everyone hates the Red Bull group too much. Maybe that's a topic for some other day. But we have Real Madrid, joined by FC Salzburg, obviously owned by the Red Bull group, Al Hilal, and Pachuca. I think maybe there could be a surprise right here. A lot of speculation on who's going to be the marquee player for Al Hilal because Neymar looks to be on his way out. That would free up a spot. Do you think they get a big name? Some names lurking around that it could be CR7. Do you think that? I saw a lot of news on that because Neymar will be leaving. It's almost a done deal, so they'll have a lot of money to spare. They always have money anyways, but they have the spot as well to spare. Do you think that Salzburg and Real Madrid make it easy work out of this, or do you think they'll somehow be surprised?
I don't think it'll be a surprise at all when Red Bull Salzburg don't go through. They're playing horribly. I don't even think they're top 3 in Austria right now. And of course, we know the disaster that they've been having in the Champions League. They're not the same Red Bull Salzburg that they were 5 years ago. It's a little bit unfortunate, at least for me, because I really liked the system that they had of producing young talent. And I mean, we know so many ballers came from there that are producing on the world stage. One of them, funnily enough, is in Saudi right now, rivaling Al Hilal, Sadio Mane, of course. But it's unfortunate to see the downfall they've had, but I mean, I'm sure a lot of people will say football has won with the Red Bull team having a downfall. I think this is going to be pretty straightforward for Real Madrid and Al Hilal. I mean, without Neymar, I don't think it matters. They already have Mitrovic, very, very good striker. Of course, Malcolm, former Barcelona flop, but still a very good player, bagged 25 goals for them last season. So he's in excellent form. Koulibaly, the center back, is anchoring the back line alongside Renan Lodji, the former Brazilian international, and João Cancelo at right back as well. Yassine Bounou, the Morocco keeper, is in goal. Sergej Milinkovic-Savic in goal, and not in goal, in the midfield, and Salem Al-Dassari, of course, the Saudi product, probably the best player on the Saudi national team. They have a real squad, as much as I don't like it, because I don't like what Saudi's doing to the sport, frankly, but you can't deny the quality that they have. I think they're going to give even Real Madrid a tough run of it, the way that Madrid has been playing recently. I think this will be pretty comfortable for those two teams. I do think... No, actually, I'm going to put Salzburg in last. I was going to put them third, because Pachuca are playing horribly. They're third bottom right now in Liga MX, but I think the support that they're going to have here, being from Mexico, of course, it's very close to the U.S., I think they're going to have a lot of fans at their game. So I think that will spur them on to a narrow win over Salzburg in a spot that ultimately doesn't really mean much.
Yeah, I think that ever since Mateschitz, the owner of the Red Bull Group, he had some passion projects like the Formula One team, like Salzburg. That was his real team that he loved. Ever since he passed away in 2022, it's kind of spiraled down for these passion projects. But I don't know. I still think they'll be ahead of Pachuca. I think that Al Hilal, they'll probably make it through, regardless of the name. And I think that a lot of Brazilians say, oh, maybe Neymar should stay just to play this. I don't think it makes much of a difference, really. He looks like a retired player these days. So I agree with you. I think that Real Madrid and Al Hilal will make it through. And ultimately, that wraps it up for the group stage. Let us know in the comments below. Do you want more coverage on this? Do you think there's any hope for the CONCACAF teams, for the MLS teams? And do you want us to do an analysis when the groups wrap up? Stay tuned if you want us to do that. Let us know. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, share with your friends, and comment down below your predictions as well. We'll see you next time.